Dr. Amanda Brooks pressed her face against the cold window of the research ship New Horizon. Below her, the planet Kythera Prime spread out like a green and purple carpet. Strange colors covered the land where alien plants grew in patterns she had never seen before. This was her first time seeing an alien world, and her heart beat fast with excitement. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Captain Jake Morrison walked up behind her. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. "Hard to believe something so pretty could be home to the galaxy's most dangerous predators." Amanda turned around to face him. She had been studying the Variks for 3 years, but only from old video recordings and data files. The Variks were massive creatures that looked like a mix between wolves and ravens. They had sharp metal claws and glowing marks on their dark fur. Most other species in the galaxy stayed far away from Varik space. "They're not just dangerous," Amanda said. "They're smart. Really smart. Maybe even smarter than humans in some ways." Jake shook his head. "Smart doesn't matter much when they can tear through steel with their bare claws. Are you sure about this mission, Doc? We could study them from orbit." Amanda picked up her datapad and showed Jake the pictures on the screen. The images showed huge stone cities built into mountainsides. The buildings were empty now, but they were clearly made by intelligent beings. "Look at these nest cities," she said, pointing at the screen. "The Variks build these places and then abandon their young there. The cubs have to survive completely alone or they die. We think 9 out of 10 cubs don't make it." "Sounds harsh," said Linda Hayes, the ship's security chief. She had been listening from across the room. "Why would parents abandon their children like that?" Amanda had been wondering the same thing. From what she knew, adult Variks lived in close family groups. They hunted together, shared food, and protected each other. But when their cubs reached a certain age, they dropped them off at these stone cities and left them there. "It's some kind of test," Amanda explained. "The cubs that survive become full members of Varik society, but the ones that don't—" She didn't finish the sentence. Peter Collins, the team's communication expert, looked up from his computer. "The translation software is ready. If we do meet any Variks, I should be able to understand their basic language. But I'm not sure how well it will work with cubs." Jake sat down in the captain's chair and rubbed his forehead. "I still think this is too dangerous. The Galactic Council warned us about the Variks for good reason. No other species has successfully made contact with them." "That's exactly why we need to try," Amanda said, her voice getting stronger. "Every other species has approached the Variks as enemies or tried to avoid them completely. But what if we're different? What if we can understand them?" The ship's computer made a beeping sound, and Dr. Kevin Walsh's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, I'm picking up some interesting readings from the largest nest city. It looks like there are about 30 cubs down there right now." Amanda felt her excitement grow. This was the chance she had been waiting for. "We need to set up camp near that city. I want to observe how the cubs behave when they're alone." "Absolutely not," Jake said firmly. "We're not putting anyone on the ground near those creatures. Even the cubs are dangerous." "Jake, listen to me," Amanda said, moving closer to his chair. "The cubs are the key to understanding the Variks. Adult Variks are too set in their ways, too aggressive. But cubs are still learning. If we can figure out how they think, how they survive, we might be able to communicate with the whole species." Linda Hayes checked her weapon and looked at Amanda. "If we do this, I'm going with you. Full combat gear, energy shields, the works." Peter looked nervous. "Are you sure the translation software will work? What if we accidentally say something that makes them angry?" "The cubs don't know adult Varik's language yet," Kevin said through the speakers. "They communicate mostly through sounds and body movements. Simple stuff." Jake was quiet for a long moment. He looked out the window at the planet below, then at his crew. Amanda could see him thinking hard about the decision. 2 days, he finally said. "We set up a protected camp 5 miles from the nest city. Full security protocols. At the first sign of trouble, we leave immediately. Amanda smiled and felt relief wash over her. Thank you, Jake. This could change everything. This could be the breakthrough that helps humans and Variks live in peace. Or it could get us all killed, Jake said quietly. The ship began its descent toward Cathera Prime. Amanda gathered her research equipment and checked her protective gear one more time. She had studied alien biology for 15 years, but she had never been this close to discovering something completely new. As they got closer to the planet's surface, Amanda could see the nest city more clearly. The stone buildings rose up from the ground like giant teeth. Dark shapes moved between the structures, too far away to see clearly but definitely alive. There they are, she whispered to herself. The Variks cubs. The New Horizon touched down on a flat area covered with purple grass. Amanda could hardly wait to begin her observations. The morning air on Cathera Prime felt thick and heavy. Amanda Brooks walked carefully toward the edge of their camp, carrying her observation equipment. The nest city stood in the distance like a dark mountain made of stone blocks. Even from 5 miles away, she could hear strange sounds coming from it. "Stay close to the energy barrier," Linda Hayes called out. She stood guard with her weapon ready, watching the horizon for any signs of danger. Amanda set up her long-range cameras and pointed them at the stone buildings. Through the viewfinder, she could see movement in the shadows between the structures. The Variks cubs were awake and active. "Peter, are you getting any communication signals?" she asked. Peter Collins adjusted his listening equipment and put on his headphones. Lots of noise, growling, screeching, some kind of clicking sounds. The translation software is trying to make sense of it, but it's mostly just animal sounds. Dr. Kevin Walsh joined them at the observation post. He had been studying the stone city through his own instruments. "Amanda, you need to see this. The layout of that city is amazing." He handed her a tablet showing a map he had created. The nest city was built like a giant maze with narrow passages, open courtyards, and tall towers. But what caught Amanda's attention were the dark spots scattered throughout the map. "What are these black areas?" she asked. "Trap rooms," Kevin said, his voice serious. "The whole city is full of them. Pits, crushing walls, chambers that fill with water. The cubs have to navigate through all of that to survive." Amanda felt sick to her stomach. "They're just children. How can any species put their young through something like this?" Linda lowered her weapon and looked at the tablet. "It's like a military training course, but deadly. What kind of creatures would build something like this for their own kids?" Through her camera, Amanda watched a group of 6 cubs emerge from one of the buildings. They were smaller than she had expected, about the size of large dogs, but she could see their sharp claws and teeth even from this distance. Their dark fur had patches of blue and green that seemed to glow in the alien sunlight. "Look at them," she said, adjusting the camera focus. "They're so young, but they're already trying to hunt." The cubs were stalking a small creature that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a bird. It had 4 legs, but also had wings that it used to jump from rock to rock. The cubs tried to surround it, but they were clumsy and uncoordinated. The prey animal escaped easily. "They're doing it wrong," Amanda said, almost to herself. "What do you mean?" Kevin asked. "Watch how they hunt. Each cub is trying to catch the prey by itself, but Variks are pack hunters. Adult Variks work together perfectly when they hunt. These cubs should be coordinating their attacks, but they're not." Peter looked up from his equipment. "Maybe they haven't learned how yet?" Amanda continued watching the cubs. Over the next few hours, she saw the same pattern repeat over and over. Groups of cubs would find prey animals, but they would fail to catch them because each cub acted alone. By noon, the cubs looked tired and hungry. "This doesn't make sense," she said, making notes on her tablet. "How are they supposed to survive if they can't catch food?" Linda pointed to another area of the city. "Look over there." A different group of cubs had found something to eat, but Amanda couldn't tell what it was from this distance. The cubs were fighting over the food, biting and clawing at each other. Only the strongest cub got to eat, while the others went hungry. "That's not how pack animals should behave," Amanda said, feeling frustrated. "Adult Variks share food with their family members, but these cubs are acting like competitors instead of teammates." Kevin was studying readings from his instruments. "The temperature is going to drop tonight, and there's a storm coming in tomorrow. If those cubs can't find shelter and food soon, a lot of them are going to die." Amanda made a decision. "I need to get closer." "No way," Linda said immediately. "Captain Morrison's orders were clear. We observe from a safe distance." "But I'm not learning anything useful from here," Amanda argued. "I need to see exactly how they behave, what they're trying to do, why they're failing." Peter looked nervous. "Even if the cubs aren't as dangerous as adult Variks, they're still predators. Their claws can cut through metal." Amanda checked her protective gear. Her suit was made of advanced materials that could stop most weapons. Her arm guards were extra thick and strong. "I'll stay at the edge of the city, just close enough to get better observations." "Amanda, this is crazy," Kevin said. "We don't know enough about their behavior patterns yet." But Amanda was already walking toward the energy barrier that protected their camp. She had spent 3 years studying the Variks from recordings and data files. Now she finally had a chance to see them in person and learn something that could help both species. "I'm going," she said firmly. "You can monitor me from here through the cameras and radio." Linda grabbed her arm. "If you're determined to do this, at least wait until tonight when the cubs are sleeping." "No," Amanda said, pulling free. "I need to see them when they're active. That's when they'll show their real behavior patterns." She walked through the energy barrier and started hiking toward the stone city. Behind her, she could hear Linda talking rapidly into her radio, probably reporting to Captain Morrison. But Amanda didn't care. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, and she wasn't going to waste it sitting 5 miles away with a camera. The purple grass crunched under her feet as she walked. Strange birds flew overhead, making sounds like musical instruments. The air smelled like flowers and electricity. Everything about this world was alien, but somehow it felt right to Amanda. As she got closer to the nest city, she could hear the cubs more clearly. Their calls sounded hungry and desperate. Some of them were crying in a way that reminded her of human children who were scared and alone. Amanda checked her equipment one more time and kept walking toward the stone buildings where 30 young predators were struggling to survive without any help from adults. Amanda Brooks crept closer to the stone walls of the nest city. Her heart pounded as she heard the sounds of the cubs echoing from inside the maze-like passages. She found a gap between 2 large stone blocks and squeezed through into the city. The inside was darker than she had expected. Tall walls blocked most of the sunlight, creating deep shadows everywhere. The stone floor was covered with scratches from countless claws. Old bones scattered around showed that many cubs had died in this place over the years. She moved carefully through a narrow passage, trying not to make noise. Her radio crackled softly and she heard Peter's voice. "Amanda, this is crazy. Come back now before something happens." She turned down the radio volume and kept walking. Through an opening ahead, she could see movement in what looked like a small courtyard. 6 cubs were there, the same group she had watched earlier. They looked thin and tired. Their glowing fur patches seemed dimmer than before, like batteries running out of power. One of the cubs was limping, probably injured while trying to navigate the dangerous traps in the city. Amanda crouched behind a stone wall and watched them. The cubs were trying to hunt again, this time chasing a small, lizard-like creature that scurried between the rocks. But just like before, each cub acted alone. They got in each other's way, bumped into each other, and missed easy chances to catch their prey. The lizard escaped through a crack in the wall. The cubs made frustrated noises and snapped at each other with their teeth. Amanda could see they were getting desperate. She was about to back away when her foot slipped on some loose stones. The sound echoed in the courtyard, and all 6 cubs turned toward her hiding spot. For a moment, nobody moved. The cubs stared at Amanda with their large, intelligent eyes. She could see they were confused. They had probably never seen a human before. Then the largest cub made a low growling sound, and suddenly they were all moving toward her. Amanda's training told her to run, but something made her stay put. These weren't adult Variks charging at her with the intent to kill. These were children, scared and hungry children who didn't know what else to do. The cubs reached her position and circled around her. They were bigger up close than she had thought, but they still looked young and unsure. Their movements were awkward, not smooth like adult predators. The largest cub, probably the leader, moved closer and bared its teeth. Amanda could see its sharp fangs and metal claws clearly now. It could easily hurt her, even through her protective gear, but instead of attacking, the cub seemed to be testing her. It made threatening gestures but didn't actually strike. Amanda realized this might be some kind of dominance display, like young wolves challenging each other for pack leadership. Her radio crackled again. "Amanda, respond! We're seeing movement on the cameras. Are you okay?" The cubs heard the voice and became more agitated. They started making louder noises, almost like they were calling for backup. Amanda knew she had to do something quickly before the situation got worse. That's when the largest cub finally attacked. But it didn't go for her throat or try to knock her down. Instead, it grabbed her armored forearm with its teeth and bit down hard. Amanda felt the pressure through her protective gear, but no pain. The arm guard was designed to handle much worse than a young predator's bite. The cub seemed surprised that she didn't cry out or try to pull away. Then Amanda remembered something from her studies of pack behavior. In wolf packs, adults often let young cubs win mock battles to build their confidence. What if Variks did something similar? Without thinking, Amanda raised her arm higher, lifting the cub that was still biting her arm guard. The reaction was immediate. The cub let go and scrambled up her arm like she was a tree, using its claws to climb. When it reached her shoulder, it made a loud screeching sound that was clearly a victory call. The other 5 cubs immediately responded with their own excited noises. They seemed thrilled that their leader had defeated the strange creature. Amanda stood very still as the cub on her shoulder continued its victory screech. "Amanda!" Linda's voice came through the radio. "What's happening?" "Your vitals just spiked!" The cub on her shoulder calmed down and looked at her curiously. Its large eyes seemed intelligent, almost questioning. Amanda slowly reached up with her other hand and gently touched the cub's head. The cub didn't attack. Instead, it made a soft purring sound, like a cat, but deeper. The other cubs moved closer, no longer acting aggressive. They seemed fascinated by this creature that had let their leader win without fighting back. Amanda carefully lowered her arm, and the cub jumped down to the ground. But instead of running away, all 6 cubs stayed near her. They began making softer sounds, almost like they were talking to each other. "Peter," Amanda whispered into her radio, "are you getting these sounds? Can the translation software make sense of them?" "The computer is working on it," Peter's voice came back. "But Amanda, you need to get out of there. If adult Variks show up..." Amanda ignored him. She was watching something amazing happen. The cubs were organizing themselves around her, like she was part of their pack. The largest cub seemed to be explaining something to the others, making gestures toward Amanda and then toward the walls of the city. Suddenly, Amanda understood. The cubs weren't just random animals trying to survive. They were intelligent beings trying to figure out how to work together, but they didn't know how. They had been watching her team from a distance, trying to learn from the humans' cooperative behavior. When she let the cub defeat her, she had accidentally triggered an ancient instinct. She had become, in their minds, a pack member. And now, they wanted her to teach them what she knew. "This is incredible," Amanda whispered. They don't want to hurt me. They want to learn from me. The cubs were moving around her in a pattern now, like they were including her in some kind of ritual. Amanda realized she was seeing something no human had ever seen before, the moment when young Variks tried to form their first pack bonds. Her radio crackled one more time. Amanda, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The cubs' behavior has completely changed. They're not acting like random predators anymore. They're acting like a team. Amanda smiled as the 6 young Variks continued their strange dance around her. She had come here to observe them, but somehow she had become part of their group. Now she faced a choice that could change the relationship between humans and Variks forever. Amanda spent the next 3 days secretly returning to the Nest City. Each time, the 6 cubs seemed happy to see her. They had started following her around the stone passages, watching everything she did with curious eyes. She began teaching them without even realizing it. When they tried to hunt the quick lizard creatures, Amanda would position herself to help drive the prey toward the cubs. Soon they understood her signals and began working together instead of competing with each other. Their first successful group hunt happened on the 2nd day. The cubs managed to catch 3 lizards by surrounding them and cutting off all escape routes. Instead of fighting over the food, they shared it equally. Amanda felt proud watching them eat together like a real pack. On the 3rd day, other cubs started appearing. Groups of hungry, tired young Variks watched from the shadows as Amanda's 6 cubs demonstrated their new hunting techniques. Soon, 12 cubs were following her around, then 18. By the afternoon, nearly all 30 cubs in the Nest City had joined her growing pack. Amanda showed them how to build simple shelters using loose stones to block the wind. She taught them to cache food in hidden spots so they wouldn't go hungry during bad weather. Most importantly, she helped them understand that working together was better than working alone. The cubs learned incredibly fast. They began making new sounds to communicate with each other during hunts. They developed hand signals to coordinate their movements. Within days, their success rate went from almost 0 to nearly perfect. But Amanda knew she was taking a huge risk. Captain Morrison had forbidden direct contact with the Variks, and she was directly disobeying his orders. Worse, she hadn't told her team what she was really doing. They thought she was just observing from a closer distance. Everything changed on the 4th morning. Amanda was teaching a group of cubs how to safely navigate one of the trap rooms when she heard a deep, thunderous roar echoing through the stone passages. All the cubs immediately stopped what they were doing and froze in place. "What was that?" Amanda whispered, but the cubs couldn't understand her words. Then she heard Peter's panicked voice through her radio. "Amanda, get out of there right now. We're detecting massive life forms approaching the Nest City." "The adult Variks are coming back." Amanda's blood went cold. According to her research, adult Variks only returned to the Nest Cities once every few months to check on the cubs. They weren't supposed to come back for another week. The cubs around her began making terrified whimpering sounds. Some of them tried to hide behind her as if she could protect them from their own parents. Through the stone passages, Amanda could hear heavy footsteps getting closer. The adult Variks were huge creatures, each one weighing as much as a small car. Their claws clicked against the stone floor with each step. "Amanda! Respond!" Linda's voice came through the radio. "We can see them on our scopes. There are at least 20 adult Variks heading straight for the city." Amanda looked at the cubs clustered around her. These young creatures had learned to trust her, to see her as part of their pack. She couldn't abandon them now. But before she could decide what to do, a massive shadow appeared at the entrance to the room. An adult Variks stepped into view, and Amanda got her first close look at one of the galaxy's most feared predators. The creature was even larger than she had expected, standing nearly 8 feet tall with muscles that rippled under its dark fur. Its claws were indeed metallic, gleaming like polished steel. The glowing patches on its body pulsed with bright blue and silver light. Its eyes were intelligent, but completely alien, showing no emotion that Amanda could recognize. The adult Varix looked at Amanda, then at the cubs gathered around her. It made a low rumbling sound that seemed to come from deep in its chest. More adults appeared behind the first one. Soon, Amanda was surrounded by 6 massive predators, any one of which could kill her in seconds. The cubs pressed closer to her, still making frightened sounds. Then the largest adult, probably the pack leader, did something unexpected. It sat down on its haunches and tilted its head to one side, studying Amanda with obvious curiosity. Peter's voice crackled through her radio, and the translation software began working. "Amanda, the computer is picking up their communication. They're talking about you." The adult Varix were indeed talking, making complex sounds that the translation software was trying to decode. After a few moments, Peter's voice came back with the computer's interpretation. "They're calling you the small teacher. They're asking each other how you taught their cubs to hunt successfully." Amanda couldn't believe what she was hearing. The adults weren't angry that she had interfered with their children. They were impressed. The pack leader made more sounds, and the translation software worked to convert them into words Amanda could understand. "How did the small, soft-skinned creature teach our cubs what we could not? The cubs now work together as they should. They survive where before they died." Amanda realized this was the most important moment in human-alien relations in history. These powerful predators were actually asking for her help. Slowly, carefully, Amanda activated her radio's transmission mode so the Varix could hear her response through the translation software. "Your cubs are smart and brave," she said, speaking clearly. "They just needed to learn how to trust each other. Human children learn the same way, by working together instead of competing." The adult Varix exchanged more sounds among themselves. Amanda could see them looking at the cubs, who were still clustered around her like she was their protector. Finally, the pack leader spoke again. "We would learn from the small teacher. Our cubs die too often in the stone places. The old ways are failing. Will you teach us the soft-skin ways of raising cubs?" Amanda's hands were shaking as she realized what the Varix leader was asking. They wanted to form an alliance, to learn from humans how to better care for their young. Before she could respond, her radio crackled with Captain Morrison's urgent voice. "Amanda, we're detecting more Varix ships approaching the planet. This could be first contact with the entire species. Whatever you're doing down there, keep doing it." Amanda looked around at the massive adult Varix and the small cubs still gathered near her feet. She was standing at the center of a moment that could change the future for both humans and Varix forever. "Yes," she said to the pack leader. "I will teach you. And maybe you can teach us something too." 3 months later, Amanda stood in the main meeting hall of the New Horizon, watching something that would have seemed impossible just a short time ago. Captain Morrison was sitting at a conference table across from Sorrow Singer, the Varix pack leader, discussing the details of a formal alliance between their species. The translation software had improved dramatically. Peter had worked with Varix communication experts to create a system that could handle complex conversations in real time. Now humans and Varix could talk to each other almost as easily as members of the same species. "The Council of Packs has voted," Sorrow Singer said, her deep voice rumbling through the speakers. "We accept the human proposal for an exchange program. Our young ones will learn cooperative hunting from human teachers. In return, we will share our bioship technology and star navigation methods with your people." Amanda felt a surge of pride and amazement. What had started as a simple research mission had grown into the most important diplomatic breakthrough in human history. Dr. Kevin Walsh leaned over to whisper to her, "The Galactic Council is going crazy. Nobody can believe that humans successfully made contact with the Varix. 3 other species have been trying for decades." Through the meeting hall's large windows, Amanda could see the Varix bioships floating in orbit around Cathara Prime. The ships were living creatures, grown rather than built, capable of traveling between stars in ways that human technology couldn't match. The Varix had offered to teach humans how to grow their own bioships in exchange for human knowledge about child development and education. But the real changes were happening on the planet's surface. Amanda looked at a video screen showing the nest cities, which had been transformed from death traps into learning centers. Human teachers worked alongside adult Varix to help cubs develop both their natural hunting instincts and their social cooperation skills. The survival rate for Varix cubs had increased from 10% to over 90% in just 3 months. Linda Hayes, who had initially been against the mission, now served as the head of security for the joint human-Varix base. "I have to admit," she said to Amanda, "I was wrong about this whole thing. These creatures aren't monsters. They're just parents trying to do right by their kids." Sorrow Singer turned her massive head toward Amanda. Even after months of working together, Amanda still felt a little intimidated by the adult Varix's size and power. But she had learned to read their body language, and she could see that Sorrow Singer was pleased. "Small Teacher Amanda," the Varix leader said, using the formal title that the cubs had given her. "The Council of Packs wishes to offer you a permanent position as Pack Sister. You would be the first soft-skin to receive such honor." Amanda felt tears in her eyes. Being named Pack Sister meant that the Varix considered her family. It was the highest honor they could give to someone outside their species. "I accept," Amanda said, her voice shaking with emotion. "But I want to continue the exchange program. Human children could learn a lot from Varix cubs about courage and independence." Captain Morrison smiled and nodded. "The Earth government has already approved funding for a permanent research station here. Dr. Brooks, you've not only made first contact with an alien species, you've created a template for how humans can build relationships with other intelligent life forms." Peter Collins looked up from his communication equipment. "Amanda, I'm getting a message from the surface. The cubs you first worked with want to talk to you." Amanda's original 6 cubs had become celebrities among their own people. They were the first generation of Varix to survive the Nest City trials using cooperative techniques instead of pure competition. Other Varix packs from across the galaxy had come to study their methods. "Put them through," Amanda said. The video screen switched to show the 6 cubs, now grown larger and stronger, but still recognizable. They were standing in what used to be a trap room, but was now a comfortable classroom where younger cubs learned basic hunting and social skills. "Pack Sister Amanda," the largest cub said, speaking much more clearly than he had months ago. "We have news. 3 more nest cities have requested human teachers. The old death trials are ending everywhere." Amanda smiled broadly. The changes were spreading faster than anyone had hoped. As word of the successful human-Varix cooperation spread, other Varix packs wanted to adopt the new methods. But the benefits weren't just going one way. Human children in schools across Earth were learning Varix techniques for building confidence and overcoming fear. The aliens' approach to teaching independence and self-reliance was helping human kids become braver and more capable. Dr. Walsh showed Amanda a report on his tablet. "Look at these numbers. Crime rates among human teenagers have dropped by 30% in areas where Varix teaching methods are being used. Apparently, learning to hunt and survive builds character." Sorrow Singer made a sound that Amanda had learned was the Varix equivalent of laughter. "Soft-skinned cubs are much like our cubs. They need challenges to grow strong, but they also need the pack to support them when they fail." The meeting continued for another hour, working out details of trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. When it ended, Amanda walked outside to look up at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light were other alien species. some of which might also be willing to work with humans if approached the right way. She thought about that first day when the cubs had bitten her arm guard and scrambled up her arms, screeching in victory. Such a simple moment, but it had changed everything. Sometimes the most important discoveries came not from complex plans or advanced technology, but from basic kindness and the willingness to see others as family instead of enemies. Amanda's arm guard still bore the tooth marks from that first encounter. She had refused to have it repaired, keeping the marks as a reminder of the moment when two very different species learned they had more in common than they had ever imagined. As she watched, a bioship descended from orbit, carrying the first group of human children who would spend a year learning alongside Varric's cubs. In the distance, she could hear the sounds of young voices, both human and alien, playing together in the converted nest cities. The future had never looked brighter or more full of possibility. And it had all started with 6 hungry cubs who just needed someone to teach them how to work together.